Welcome back to the Dr. Joe Show. Got a quick little discussion here for you. I have Dr. Adonis Safera, MD, psychiatrist, interesting guy. We're just going to have a little informal chat. First of all, pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
This is the first day I'm meeting Dr. Safera. Anyway, so from what I understand, you've been writing some papers about various receptors, and you've also been looking into the connection between the microbiome, leaky gut, and mental illness.
Right.
So I figure we'll just start chatting about that.
Yeah. So the idea that there is a translocation of microbes from the gut into the systemic circulation and eventually reaching the brain.
Mm-hmm.
For example, in Alzheimer's disease, they found LPS, lipopolysaccharide, in the brain of patients with Alzheimer's, believed to, and which could have only come from the gut microbes. There's also in schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is comorbid with inflammatory bowel disease, and inflammatory bowel disease is marked by increased permeability, increased gut permeability, and microbial translocation. Now, why is that important? Is that when they are in the gut lumen, there is something called immunological tolerance. They are immunologically tolerated in the gut. And that's why we don't develop allergies to food. Our immune system does not attack the food or food proteins, or there's other areas that are tolerant. For example, the immune system does not attack the fetus, even though the fetus has 50% of proteins from the father. So there's immunological tolerance for the gut microbes while they are in the gut. Now, when they translocate, there's two things that happen. There's antibodies against various microbial proteins, and microbes contain many receptors that are identical or similar to the ones we have. For example, adrenergic receptors, dopaminergic receptors, and so forth. So there's antibodies that develop against that, and there is immunogenicity. These microbes are now attacked by the host immune system because they are not tolerated in the general in the systemic circulation and tissues. So for this reason, that there is a high prevalence of schizophrenia in people with inflammatory bowel disease, and vice versa. And gut microbes have been found in the brain. There's also gut microbes that can be dormant in a tissue. And usually that's because there is no insufficient iron. When there is insufficient iron in the peripheral circulation, various microbes can go into a dormant state.
Yes,
and
they like iron.
They like iron. Iron is they are like oxygen for us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens in schizophrenia and mental illness in general, there is cellular senescence. So cellular senescence is a cellular program in which the cells stop reproducing. So it's replicatory arrest. Metabolism is active, but it changes, and they secrete a toxic secretome called senescence-associated secretory phenotype. So it's SASP. So SASP is...
We secrete that, or the bacteria does?
No, we do.
We do?
We do, yeah. When cells become senescent...
So it's epigenetic?
Yes, it's epigenetic, right. when cells become senescent, and cells become senescent because they try to protect from oncogenes. Because
Cancer-causing genes.
right, so a senescent cell cannot reproduce or cannot become malignant, right?
That's
so
a safeguard.
that's a safeguard.
Yeah.
So that's what. So in mental illness, in severe mental illness like schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, bipolar disorder, there is cellular senescence, and this is something that came out lately. And as a result of cellular senescence, there's several other things that can be measured. For example, the gray matter loss. It's something that happens in schizophrenia and progresses throughout life and doesn't respond very well to medication. So
because that's a structural thing,
it's
and
yes.
it takes place over time, right?
Right.
So
Right.
it's going to take a while to regenerate it,
Exactly.
if possible.
If possible. If it regenerates.
Now, when you say leaky gut, I think the mechanism of leaky gut was always unclear to me. Is it just sort of that the tight junctions don't work anymore, or is it several different mechanisms?
It's several mechanisms. Tight junction is one, but translocation can occur also through the cell, transcellular,
Straight through the cell.
straight through the cell. If the cell changes,
I mean, chlamydia goes straight into the cell, for example. So there's plenty of bacteria that can do that.
right.
Does Bacteroides do that?
Bacteroides can go through the barrier. Yes.
So Bacteroides, I remember, was the big one. That was the big one for leaky gut. Is that still the case, or do you think
that's
there's
still
more?
the case, and there's other bacteria, and there's also various proteins or antigens from the bacteria that can translocate without the microbe itself going through the lamina propria and getting into the systemic circulation. So sometimes it's molecules, and sometimes it's bacteria in general.
Wow.
Can move and then cause inflammation. So it's not so much the microbes that they cause mental illness. Is the immune response to the microbes.
And it's the wrong microbes.
And it's the wrong microbe. Right. So that's.
Is there any connection that you know of between omega-6 to 3 ratio and the risk of developing this leaky gut mental illness problem?
Yes, there is a lot of there's literature about that, and several chemicals can increase the permeability of the gut. That's what we call leaky gut. It's basically increased permeability, sometimes to everything and sometimes selectively to some microbes or molecules. So yes, inflammation is the major one. Gut inflammation, local inflammation, also the various toxins such as plasticizers, right, and so these are things and we are learning every day of new molecules that can increase the permeability of gut barrier.
The thing that worries me the most about learning about all these new toxins, it's that there's so much information. It's like an information overload. I mean, just between these two volumes that we have here, for example, this is just a small portion of the toxins that we have. I think more emphasis should just be on avoidance of new stuff.
I agree.
And people are going to say, "Oh, there's no evidence for this." Well, we don't have time to research the long-term toxic effects of this new chemical and this new food additive. We don't have time. I don't think we have time or resources to research this anymore.
Right. It's overwhelming because there's so many substances and toxins, both inside the body and from the environment.
And in the air.
And several of these things have been recently associated with schizophrenia.
Interesting.
before we only thought, okay, it's something that affects the dopamine, but now we know it's much more than that. And actually, dopamine may be something that occurs secondary, and there's another receptor called aryl hydrocarbon receptor, AHR, and this is a receptor that was initially discovered for dioxin. It was the receptor for dioxin.
Mm-hmm.
But now, I mean, lately in the past decade or so, there were many other biomolecules from the body and from the environment that can activate this receptor. So there's a new category of could be natural substances also, and some of them synthetic, that can inhibit or decrease lower the activity of aryl hydrocarbon receptor. And many of them are the ones that we already know, like quercetin, berberine, and
And anything that activates autophagy.
yes, things that activate autophagy. Those are the ones that can act on the AHR.
Wow, that's quite a bit to unpack there, folks. Thank you for tuning in.